Welcome to the Nigel MacLean podcast. Speaking nothing but raw truth. So listen.
Real close. Pay attention.
Ready whenever you are, sir.
I'm ready, man.
Are you ready?
Born ready.
All right. How you been anyways?
Good. Busy. Super busy. But
Yeah.
busy is, as I mentioned before we started, busy is good because busy keeps me out of trouble. I can get into trouble if I'm not busy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, how many campaigns, or I don't know, what would you call them? Just like rallies or get-togethers. How many have you had? You had like 4 or 5?
Oh my goodness. Well,
Just in the last little bit. Like you were in Moncton, you were in Fredericton.
Yeah, Moncton, Fredericton a few times, Moncton a few times because there was we got together in front of the court case for Dave West. And other than that, then doing like other podcasts and interviews and, I was on the news a bunch of times as well for some of the stuff. So yeah, it's always, CTV, CBC for the rallies the convoy rallies up in Fredericton. And then there was that whole incident with me in the picture of Michael Cummings, who was the Pride Association president, who took he took a selfie with me.
Yeah.
At the Moncton rally, and he was the president of Pride, and I'm a People's Party of Canada candidate and member, and apparently we don't get along according to mainstream media, even though that's not true at all.
They decide that for you.
Yeah, they've decided we hate each other. They've decided that that was inappropriate, and then they got the whole, the Pride Association of Fredericton, of St. John, all went and denounced him. He actually put in his resignation. He was president for the Pride Association here in St. John.
So what was the issue?
That he took a selfie with me. That was the issue. That's what a selfie can do.
Oh.
Yeah.
So people make like a mental meme about it.
Well, I think that they were spinning the convoys as white supremacists, hating gays, bigots. The People's Party of Canada has often been labeled that, even though it's absolutely not true. So when he took a picture and a selfie, which is really interesting because I find it fascinating. I have no problem with the Pride Association or gay rights or anything like this. I think that everybody has the right to do whatever they want.
As long as you're not attacking me or putting all your stuff on me, it's fine.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
to me, it's freedom, right? Like
Yeah.
you do you. What who you're attracted to or who you identify is not my business.
Exactly.
And myself and Michael, we had great conversations, and I would actually consider him, a friend, kind of an acquaintance. Anyways, we've had good conversations. And what's really interesting about the whole scenario was that myself and Michael talked, and we're fine and we're cool, but the media is making it out to be like some issue. And so then you had, a few, the interim president of St. John, you had the president of the Fredericton Pride Association, all coming on the news saying that he shouldn't have done this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what shouldn't he have done? He shouldn't have expressed his political views. That's what you're saying. You're basically saying that unless you agree 100% with everything that the association stands for, that nobody should express anything outside of that. And that to me was just ridiculous. And it's really interesting. I've had several members now of the gay community reach out to me, specifically gay men, reach out to me saying, we support you, we're gay, we don't support this type of rhetoric that these specific associations are telling everybody, and that we are for freedom and that we are for individual rights.
They're trying to say that all that is no because he took a picture with you? Is that basically it?
Well, I think they're trying to say that he shouldn't have taken a picture. Not that he shouldn't have necessarily taken a picture with me. Look, this is political strategy.
Yeah,
they want to draw an association that anybody who associates with the PPC is going to be canceled, is going to become a target, and then this is a political association. They were also trying to create a narrative that everybody going to these freedom rallies are bigots and are against gay people and all
what exactly is a bigot? I've been hearing this word, and I honestly
don't know. Let's look it up.
Yeah.
Let's get a definition.
Please do. I've heard it so much, and I'm like, what even is it? It sounds so odd, right?
A bigot. A bigot. Let's look up the exact definition of bigot. At least
I've been hearing
probably
a lot of weird words lately, especially coming out of like Trudeau's mouth. Just weird slangs and.
Okay, a bigot is, according to Oxford Dictionary of English, we're getting all technical here today, a person who is intolerant towards those holding different opinions. That's so funny. That's so funny. Talk about, that is hilarious. Talk about the hypocrisy in that. So oh my gosh, this is beautiful. So he holds
Doesn't even make any sense.
a view for individual freedoms and some of the restrictions. He holds his perspective.
That's
and
reverse
views.
reverse psychology.
This is actually Marxist. This is Marxism. What Marxist political theory says is that whatever you are or whatever you're planning on doing, tell everybody else that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because it confuses people. So the fact is they're saying that these are bigots, and we're bigots. And yet they're so intolerant of anybody who holds a different perspective. So it's a lot of hypocrisy. And, we are all hypocrites sometime or other in our life. So that was just a situation that kind of arose. And then there was the freedom. So I've been a busy boy. And, the media seems to have liked me.
Yeah.
And, I like them. We have a great relationship.
Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You got to stay positive. It's funny how they constantly use negativity it's like their main tactic. You know what I mean? They're always trying to switch things and flip things. But that's funny though, the whole bigot thing. It's like, that's the whole thing. Like, it's just
controversy sells, right? And look, at the end of the day, media is a business.
Yeah.
They're not just reporting the news, they're selling papers. Why do you think that or ad space? They need viewers.
Yeah.
Right? We're all after the game of viewers.
So when they start losing views, they'll do anything to get back in their groove. And they've lost a lot since the internet because they used to be the main guys, and then all these small dogs come around and then they start taking it from them.
That's why we call it legacy media. They're they're old. They're dying. It's a dinosaur. What you're doing here, this is the new media, right? Look at Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has, we were talking about that also before, like, Neil Diamond saying, it's either me or Joe Rogan. And by Neil Diamond, because who's listening to Neil Diamond anymore? But the internet's the new media. It's why they so badly want to censor the media, social media.
Young.
Neil Young, yeah, sorry. And so it's why they so badly, governments are trying really hard to censor social media.
They don't want to lose that power.
No, because media is influence and influence is power.
Yeah.
If I can control the narrative of a nation, I can control the nation. If I can control the language of a nation, I can control the nation. And that's why there's a lot of I call it it's a battle of ideology. It's a battle of language. So language of freedom means I don't control the language. You're a free person. You can say what it is that you want. You can think what you want. You can be what you want. An authoritarian styled government, someone who has a specific ideology.
It's so gross.
Yeah, that they want to push. They're going to consistently try to control the language. And that's the funniest thing. All of this BLM, Black Lives Matter, pride associations, and not all of them. And there's great people involved in all associations. So I just want to put that out there. But you can see that there's a huge attempt to control the language of the nation. You can't say this. You can't say that. You can say this. You can't say that.
That's a language all in itself.
Yeah, 100%. They say success is a language, spirituality is a language. It's the thing that makes us different from the animals, complex language. We can sit here and have this communication. And language also sparks innovation. The challenge when you're controlling freedom of speech, the pillar of a free society is freedom of speech. As soon as you start regulating speech to the point where people now, cancel culture is so scary for people that they're starting to regulate themselves. Well, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say this. I could get banned. I could get, taken off certain platforms. what you end up having is a loss of creativity, a loss of innovation, and a loss of healthy debate. Scientific debate, political debate, cultural debate, and healthy debate and discussion is what makes us innovate. It's what makes us grow, get better.
You know where the problem really lies is the generation. Let's say the generation that's 50. They've seen all this stuff unfold over time, and then the ones who are coming up who only see cell phones and all this stuff going on, it's all new to them, and all that stuff previous hasn't happened to them. So it's like they don't understand the importance of free speech and all that because they haven't seen all this stuff go on like the older, like the other generation before them, right? So it's like this problem of them not seeing it. It's like they just grow up in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think there's definitely a generational differences between, you know, those
like the
of
ones
us.
who are saying like you should be saying they and them and you know, like when you're talking about second, but they don't understand like what it was like before then, how important, like, you know what I mean? Like they don't see all the important stuff that they kind of get lost. Just the new generation, it's like they just don't see. There's like that saying where it's like hard times makes easy, whatever. Like I don't know.
There's definitely a gap between every generation, of course, has its own nuances and culture.
Yeah.
And every generation has its own sets of challenges. I find my perspective is that the older generations, they're very much still plugged into to legacy media, right? So here in Canada, CBC and CTV and Global, and they're still view them as the authority. They view them as what they say is the news, and they don't recognize that the legacy media is no longer journalism. It's not real journalism. They're not reporting the news. They're making up the news. And I don't say that they flat out lie, because I mean, I've been a target of the legacy media, and that's why I say we have a great relationship.
They construct it in a very particular way that they want you to see.
Yeah, and they also know that we're in what I call a headline culture. Read the headline, make a decision.
Yeah.
Read the headline, and that's it.
No, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, and they know that most people don't read the article. So, for example, you know, the media has slandered me for many different things. And what they'll do is they'll put this crazy headline out. Everybody makes a decision on the headline. But if you actually read the article, you'll be like, oh, there's nothing actually crazy going on. It's like very normal stuff.
Yeah.
But that's not news. That doesn't sell. That doesn't make you click. So we're in the clickbait culture. Everything has to catch someone's attention. And, you know, for better or for worse, social media has heightened everything. We're all competing for attention. So the crazier the headline, the more outrageous, the more emotional it is. If I really want to capture someone, I have to spark an emotion. And the legacy media has been doing this for hundreds of years, you know, and they're expert at it. And so that's what they've learned to do.
It's been a while.
Oh yeah, I mean these are ancient times.
Papers go back to like Greek, you know. I'm pretty sure they had like papers they had some type of, you know, like public display of messages. They definitely did.
Yeah. And I know. Like I was sharing with someone the other day about Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther, who started Lutheran religion. He used pamphlets because he translated the Bible for the laymen. Because at that time, the Bible was only for. My understanding is that the Bible was still in Latin. And the only people who could speak Latin was the priests.
It's been translated like 12 times.
Well, at this point, point, you know, it's got so many versions, and this guy doesn't like this, so he changes it, and that guy doesn't like that, so he changes it, right?
Yeah.
But the point is that the way that Martin Luther, who started Lutheran sect of Christianity, is he got out there with leaflets. So propaganda has been used to promote everything. And you can just say propaganda is the art of promotion. And promotion is power. Promotion is influence. And drama,
It's basically drama.
And that's it. And we're a drama loving society.
I'm not, but they are.
Yeah, well, culturally we are, right? And you know what? You know what's really interesting is that it plays deep in our own psychology as well. because drama is a type of, it catches our attention. Anything that we believe might be a threat to us is going to catch our attention. We can't help it.
Yeah, because it hits that natural instinct, the defense mechanism.
That's right.
They know how to play around with that.
That's right. So when you say like, oh my gosh, there's something crazy going on, there's something dangerous going on, they know it's more likely that someone's going to have an emotional response to that and therefore click on it and be able to be like, oh, okay, man, I got to check this out. But again, we live in a very surface-based society where people don't dive deep into anything. So they read a headline, they make a decision, and then they're like, this is it. I know what's going on. But we all know way less than we admit. We all have a very small perception into the world. And if we take, we're sitting here with all these cool, kind of universe-styled tapestries. If you took all the knowledge there is to know in the entire universe, and you go, how much of it do I know? Everybody would admittedly like a speck, like nothing. Like we know very little of the accumulated knowledge of the universe.
If you know the secrets of infinity, you can get the overall perspective and know like the overall gist of it, and you can basically just kind of move yourself around within the infinity.
Yeah,
and you can have a good enough understanding to not be like a dumbass. But know that it's impossible to know everything.
It's impossible,
right?
Yeah, it's impossible.
But there's definitely a certain way to be free about like thinking, to actually see what's really going on, where like I guess it's not good to get stuck on a pattern or like a track.
Yeah.
Like, because it's not a healthy way. Like if you're not going to be able to think freely and you're stuck on all these predetermined patterns of behavior and beliefs and all these belief systems, rather than like seeing things for what they really are, just kind of like going off the momentum of other people's thoughts and you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and if we're emotionally responding to everything.
What was the name of that guy that you were talking about with the Bible or
Martin Luther.
Oh, okay. All right.
So if we're emotionally responding to everything, then we're essentially becoming slaves to whatever is the next stimulant. Oh, this person said that. Oh my goodness. And then you're running like sheep, like, oh my goodness.
I guess that's a certain type of person too. Like if you're someone, compared to if you're just free, or if you're like locked into that, you're constantly getting...
Well, I think that we're all on a journey. Let's say on a spectrum of how free we are. And I would never say about myself, anyways, that I'm, I don't have preconceived perspectives or conditioning. It's almost nearly impossible to completely free yourself of that.
I think the best way you could free yourself would be to go into an isolation tank.
Well, I think that's why yogis, for example, go into the mountains and disappear.
Because then it's just consciousness. Like if you're laying in an isolation tank, all your senses are off. It's just the only one that's there is alive. I'm here. I'm here.
It's just boring. Like, I don't think that we're meant. I think that the soul is an active principle, meaning it's what makes it, what it gives movement to life. The reason this
Oh,
body,
you mean just to be just there, like by yourself without anybody else around? It's like well, what the hell is this? That's the natural drive to want to be around people, because that's what makes life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it would be boring. To me, it'd just be boring. Like, what am I going to do? Sit in a yogi cave all day and
as
as
a thought experiment, I've said to people before, like, imagine what it would be like to be on a planet with nobody around. You have all the food and everything you need, but there's just nobody around. How long would you be all right? It's like,
Yeah. Well, to me,
not even animals. Yeah. Just you got all food and everything, and that's it.
I've spent a lot of time by myself, and I've spent a lot of time in meditation and stuff like that. So I understand like the appeal of it, because there's a great amount of peace of just being by yourself and just being like,
oh yeah. Well, it's good to have. Is that the dude you're talking about?
Yeah, this is the dude we're talking about.
Is he German?
I don't know what he is. So the namesake of Lutheranism. He is German. A German priest, theologian, author, and hymn writer. Lutheran was ordained in the priesthood in 1507, and he came to reject several teachings and practices of the Roman Catholic Church. In particular, he disputed the views on indulgences. Luther proposed an academic discussion of the practice and the efficacy. This is my bad
He was
English
known
coming
for...
out.
He challenged the authority of the office of the Pope.
Lauder taught that salvation and consequently eternal life are not earned by good deeds, but are received only as the free gift of God's grace through the believer's faith in Jesus Christ as Redeemer from sin. So this is going deep into his philosophy, which I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But he had something to
it.
do with translating. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, my understanding of him, and maybe I'm wrong, but my understanding of him is that he translated the Bible. So he questioned the Bible, and he questioned a lot of things that the Catholic Church was doing at the time. And my point of bringing him up was that he went against the narrative, and he used leaflets.
People
as
always
his way to get down.
Dude, they always get attacked every time they do that. Like even today, like if you're like somebody who deals in digging up soil, right? And if you dig too deep, you'll get in shit for it. Like, oh, we don't want to go down that far. We don't want to put that on the record, and they'll get mad at you for digging too deep. Like,
yeah. Well, I think it comes back to that defense mechanism that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Once you challenge someone's narrative, you're essentially challenging their belief. And at an unconscious level, for most people, that means you're challenging their very existence. Like, for example, if you went to someone who's a mother and you say, you're not a mother, you see that they'd get very, very defensive, right? Because they have an identity. They're like, this is who I am. And you've just said, that's not who I am. And so all of a sudden they get very, very defensive, and you're dealing with an angry mother, and nobody wants to do that. But that's also true for everything. That's why identity politics exists, because it's people are basically saying, this is who I am. But, when we talk about consciousness, and if we go down the rabbit hole of like spiritual practices, actually spirituality and different practices, meditation, or people have used psychedelics and all these things, they have experiences where they go above and beyond those identities, where I'm like, oh, wait, maybe I'm not this Nicholas. What is Nicholas? What I'm Nicholas, I'm Canadian. Well, what does that really mean? So identities are practical, they're needed. And when we have collective identities like I am Canadian, that's holds
an ideology,
us together. But
right?
It's an ideology.
Yeah.
The reality is it's an ideology. If you're conscious of that, then you can say, does this ideology benefit me? Do I like it or do I not? Right? For me, I'm into the I am Canadian ideology because as a nation, I love Canada. I love our way of life, and I think we're really blessed to live in this nation. And so, but I also understand that deep down, it's an ideology.
In an advanced society, there's going to be none of that. That'll be considered silly, the same way that trading at certain times was considered silly, you know what I mean? Or looking at like how they used to ride horses and buggies, be like, oh, look at those silly people. Why can't they be advanced like us? They'll be looking at, they used to actually mark the earth and, oh, look, that's New Brunswick. Oh, this is that. It's like, no, it's like programming, it's like brainwashing.
Yeah.
When it's all a big planet we're supposed to be sharing, but everybody's kind of crazy right now and they haven't got it figured out. Who knows if we'll get past all this craziness? I don't know, dude. We're in a weird time.
Well, that's why nations are always redrawing lines, right? If we look in history, nations are always changing, and this new state is born, and that state amalgamates into this one because they're not real. They're not what is factual. They're ideologies. They're mental constructs, and mental constructs can be created.
It's just meant to control.
And it can be broken.
It's meant to control people.
It totally is.
Yeah.
But I also feel like I also don't feel like it's totally like an evil, like meant to control people in that way. But again, to me, it's practical. If all of us are living in the same neighborhood and we all say, hey, we're all St. Johners, that holds us together. It makes things work. There's a principle called organized effort. So if I go out as an individual,
well, if there's good things that come out of it, then yeah, sure.
Well, there's always good things. Yeah. I mean, and that's when you can even challenge good and bad, right? Like what is right, what is wrong, because those are also mental constructs, right? You could say murder is bad, but what if someone's trying to kill you and you defended yourself? Are you a bad person now?
Well, I mean, if you're doing it to eat it,
Right. So there's so that's the thing. You can almost challenge anything.
There's a difference between cruelty, which is usually evil, and just righteousness,
Yeah.
It's like I could go beat the shit out of a squirrel or I could kill it and eat it.
Right.
But there's a humane way of going about it, and then there's an unhumane way of going about it.
I think that's where we get into the world of intention.
Yeah.
What is the intention behind the action? And it's very difficult to tell people's intentions.
It's all yin yang at the end of the day. It's like boom, boom,
That's right.
This one.
This is a world. It's a world of duality.
Yeah.
But as far as identity goes, I think the broader identities we have, the better. Like for example, one of my personal missions is to forge strong Canadian identity by ending, forge strong Canadian unity by ending identity politics.
Do you think maybe the only way that we're going to ever have a better, more healthy society is maybe coming up with something new rather than everybody just continuously going with the same old structure? Because obviously it's not a good one. You know, it's structured in a very strict way, but you know, overall, I think it could be done a lot better. It's just people haven't come together to try to make it something different. They're all like, you know, they're the same people with MK Ultra, like, and all that, you know, and all these crazy wars and everything. It's like, it's the same old school structure, the same crazy structure. There's got to be some change at some point, you know? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so there's different psychological makeups on the planet, and there's always going to be a part of society who has a visionary aspect of what society should be. So, for example, we have a gentleman named Klaus Schwab, right? And Klaus Schwab is the founder and chairman of the World Economic Forum and is part of big banking families. And he's promoting a great reset and the fourth industrial revolution. These are, and he's even said in his books, we have to reimagine the way the world looks. So it's part of a psychological makeup that there's always people on the planet that are visionary and that are willing to, they believe so much in their vision that they're literally willing to impose it on other people. Then there's a psychological makeup of like entrepreneurs who are, no matter what going on, there's always going to be the entrepreneurial psychological makeup, which are going to move products and services and be money oriented. And then there's going to be like the artisans, the people who are always bringing art and who want to create in that way. And there's like a very like intellectual kind of psychology, people who love books and philosophy.
There's got to be a way to get all these people in the right places and then make the best society possible. Well, it's like we're in the process of it. We don't know what the butterfly looks like because we're the caterpillar. We don't know what we're going to look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, these different psychological makeups, I think the first thing is to understand is that they exist. And so the first thing, when you understand that there's different psychological makeups on the planet and through human beings, naturally there comes an acceptance and says, oh, okay, I get it. I'm this type of psychological makeup, but I understand that there are different psychological makeups. So therefore, when someone has a different perspective or sees the world from a different point of view, you can say, oh, okay, I understand it because you have a different perspective or way. And then you can value it. And that's the thing. It's when we don't value different psychological makeups. It's when the visionary class says, this is the vision, and we got to do this. And maybe they butt up against the entrepreneurial psychological makeup, and the two of them can't get along because they're both stuck in their psychological makeup. They're saying, this is the way I see it, so it must be the truth. And the other person says, this is the way I see it, so it must be the truth.
Arrogance is never healthy.
Never at all. But when we say, you know what, this is the way that I see it, and I recognize that it's simply like a window into the world, and you're a different person, so you have a window into the world. And maybe because we're sitting here in this space, we're seeing some of the same things now. But in other ways, we can see things differently. And that's okay because we have these different windows into the world. And like you mentioned, the analogy of being able to, let's say there's infinity and we can float around in infinity. Well, if you can imagine.
I was letting you know where I'm at. That exactly what you're imagining. That's what I'm like, I can see from all different angles. I'm just like looking around. But
yeah.
So you're imagining, what were you going to say? You're imagining like a window.
Yeah, so you can imagine like a window. Mm-hmm. And so everybody, if we can see that when we're looking in the world.
What I was talking about.
Oh, yeah. When you're looking into the world, you're looking through a window. And we know the difference. Like, for example,
keep this broadened, I guess. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Keep it as broad as possible. Just check her out,
Well, and I would even say there's certain times where it's okay to be narrow. Like, for example, if you want to build a business.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Get narrow, right? You have to, and again, it's being able to widen your window when needed, close the window when it's needed. For example, when I'm focused on, building my business, I get very narrow focused to be like, this is the result I'm after and this is where I'm going. When we're having discussions like this, I try to broaden my window as best as I can so that I can be open and accepting to different points of view. And I think that's what leaders need to do.
That's where your fish hook is.
Yeah, that's right. You can, well, and then you can accept others. So I think that first of all, I don't believe in a perfect society. I believe that I believe personally that anybody who's pitching their perfect society is a very dangerous person.
Yeah.
Klaus Schwab is a very dangerous person because he's pitching a utopian society where we're all going to own nothing and be happy. But that's only because that's if 100% of people buy into his vision. This is what I'm always saying. But it'll never happen.
If there's like people who want to choose to be a certain way, like right now, it's like if you're within Canadian borders. Let's say if 1 million people got together and they're like, hey, let's make this city over here where we don't use money and we use our electricity from the sun, from the wind, and from water. And we grow our own food and we all share our own food and we just decide to do things a little differently. We use 3D printers to our advancement and we just decide to live easy and advance but easy at the same time. 1 million people they go do that and they call it utopia or something, I guess, I don't know. It's like, are we ever going to get to a point where we just kind of like leave the masses of certain people alone rather than trying to like control them? You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's why we have different nations on the planet.
Yeah.
Each nation has its own
so
psychological makeup. So we have individual makeups, but we have collective makeups.
Well, the weird thing is that it's almost like the same anywhere you go. The same.
Yeah.
It's so strange
because
how
people are people.
Yeah. It's weird how it all went at the same time. Like, I mean, I know there's still people living in the woods and like in the sticks and all that, like down in the Amazon. But it's weird how if you go everywhere in the world right now, it's really similar everywhere you go, but it's just slightly different.
Yeah. It's just the outward stuff is different.
Yeah.
Somebody speaks Russian, somebody speaks English, but their wants or desires are the same. They want love, they want safety, they want security. If we look at, Maslow's, I don't know if I'm saying that name right, the hierarchy of needs, right? So we all need safety, then we all need expression, and we all going to try to self-actualize if we're able to meet certain needs. That is universal. So it doesn't matter whether you're Chinese, you're Russian, you're Brazilian, you're Canadian. It doesn't matter. Those are human psychological needs. Now, what's different is somebody might express those needs through the Portuguese language, and someone might express those needs to the Chinese language, and someone might express it through the English language.
If you're smart, you can feel the intent. I've had conversations. Right. It's weird. I've had conversations with people who speak a different language, but we understood each other.
Yeah, of course, because there's universal language. Actually, 7% of communication is words.
Yeah.
33% of communication is tonality and expression. So right now, everyone who's listening to us, you're listening to the words we're saying, but you're also picking up on our tonality, our expressions, our passion, our lack of passion, whatever it is that we're describing. So that's 33 and 7. So that's only 40%. So what's the rest of the 60? Vibe, energy. Yeah. Who are they at a core? You can tell. That's why, someone walks in a room and you think, man, this is a positive person, or this is a person I want to be around. This is a person who I feel them, and I feel that they have good intention. I feel like this. And then another person could walk in a room and everyone's like, wow, the room just got really dark, or man, the party just got killed. Right?
Every once in a while, you can you think that your bullshit meter works pretty good, and then once in a while, one of those guys slips through, and you're like, "Oh shit!"
That's the art of rhetoric.
Like, oh, I thought he was good, and then you found out that he like killed his wife next week or something. Like, oh, I thought he was. Okay, he was a little off, but I didn't think he was that off.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is too, it's like. This also is, that's a really interesting thing that you bring up, right? This idea of like, wow, I thought that person's really good. And then you find out like, oh.
But there still is that little thing, I don't know.
But and that's the thing. That's why I'm like, I question like good and bad and right and wrong, because it's like, hold on. It assumes that we're all one thing always.
Yeah.
And we're not.
Right?
We're not. Sometimes, we're not. Like sometimes, we are very complex individuals. We have different makeups. So
it's such a broad perspective.
That's right.
It's insanity. It's like
So just to say, so what we end up doing is because the mind likes to compartmentalize. It likes to be like, like this is a TV, classify.
That's a Dodge. This is a
right.
car. That's a wheel. Classify.
That person's good. That person's bad. I like them. I don't like this. But actually, if you meet anybody, you'll see that there's probably some aspects that you're like, oh, I really resonate. Maybe there's some aspects that, oh, I don't resonate. But you see, they're not just one thing. We're very complex.
Yeah. Think about how many cells are in your body.
Totally. Right?
They're all individuals.
Yeah. And so we're working with all of this makeup, and then we're trying to find certainty in an uncertain world. We're trying to find safety in a world that's not really safe. The reality of our world today is that we live under the illusion of safety. And you can see just through the last few years, right?
Yeah.
When the cooties came around, right? How... oh my goodness! So many people got thrown off. That's how fragile
I know
their safety is to them, right? That's how actually fragile our society is.
People are worried about all these little things, but my worries are more like, when is the sun going to have its next solar flare, or when's the next crazy earthquake or volcano, or when are we going to go through that asteroid stream? We go through like twice a year.
Right.
It's like putting a blindfold on and running down the freeway.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like, okay, that's the real worry.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what you're up worried about. Yeah. So see my what occupies my window into this world at this time, because at different times of my life, different things have occupied that window, right? So right now, I'm very much into politics. I'm very much into what's going on here on this planet.
You got a duty outside yourself. And if you feel that you can fix a few things, I'm all with you, man.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's
what
where
you're trying to do,
right?
You're trying to fix some stuff because you know it needs to be fixed. And you're like, I can't fucking stand around anymore. This is bullshit. I gotta fix some fucking shit, man.
Yeah, well, I think when we all have this nature to serve or to help in some way. Like for instance, let's say the artist looks at the world and says, I can bring beauty, I can bring art, I can bring imagination to this world.
Yeah.
So that's their way of fixing, quote unquote, fixing the world, is by bringing their inner expression. They're trying to express it outwardly to share it. I have a certain psychological makeup. And so when my view of the world right now, I feel I can make a difference in the realm of politics or in the realm of understanding culture, right? Other people, the entrepreneur may say, I'm going to make a difference by starting a business and selling a product. Look, this iPhone, Steve Jobs, this came through him. He was the conduit for this expression.
Even though millions of people who were involved in making that don't get credited. How dare you?
It's true.
It's so cruel.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? It's just the reality of the world, right? It's like not everybody's going to get credit. No. Not everybody's going to, and nobody. That's why I hate the term. I hate the term self-made.
Yeah,
I'm a self-made man, or I'm a self-made whatever millionaire, or blah blah blah.
We're involved in so many. We're all like taking care of one another.
100%. Nobody's self-made, and we're all interdependent. Right? Even now, right now, we're doing this podcast. Well, we're doing this podcast. We're completely dependent that somebody made this technology. I didn't make this microphone. I didn't make this headphone. Yeah. I didn't make these cameras. Right? So the idea that someone can sit there and convince themselves that they're self-made and I'm
it's
so
the ego.
great, 100%. Right? I've made all this. You didn't make nothing. And let's all remember that every piece of clothing and technology and everything all came from the earth.
Man, I feel like there
and none of us made the earth.
No. Well, I think there should be like a place you can go where it teaches all these values. You could just go there, and it could be like this place where you learn all this stuff. I feel like it's going to be needed in the future because people are going to be so disconnected, and they're not going to be able to experience all these changes because things are just going to be, Well,
this in the ancient times, this type of knowledge or discussion that we're having, which is much more in the realm of consciousness and esoteric kind of ideas, has actually been, there are places around the world, and we used to call them temple or church or these type of places where you'd go see the mystic in the mountain, and you would ask about these life questions and who am I, what is
really
consciousness?
The guy that was going up to the mountain was going to pick a mushroom. That's what really was going on.
And he ate the mushroom, and then he told you the answer, right? Right? That's why do you think people are traveling to go to do ayahuasca type of experiences or all these things? Because that's what they're searching for. before, but right now in our current modern, let's say in the general society, these conversations aren't not being had, and unfortunately, school doesn't encourage it.
Oh, yeah, no, they
doesn't
don't.
encourage. Like here, we're having a very abstract conversation about life. School says life is this: get a job, have kids, go to university, follow the path, because that's what's good for the system. That's
have a coffee, take an Ativan, and look forward.
That's right. Yeah.
How dare you look around?
Don't look around. Don't question.
Look forward.
Right? Because that works for certain people, because essentially we play their game, right? We're a cog in their wheel. These type of conversations, which are a little bit more on the abstract kind of a side of life, expands the mind. There's no conclusion. Of course it's needed.
It's needed.
Of course
I don't think there's enough of it. Okay?
I agree with that.
And going way back, it's always been like that with people who somewhat could get on this level, like, you know what I'm talking about. It's like this particular place that you go when you talk to people and you exchange information about, like, it's like universal consciousness, or like just all of infinity, you know. Well, something I was gonna bring up is, like, if you're gonna think the external world and then the internal world, well, what's the difference, right? We see barriers because there's the inner self, or the I, or whatever, the consciousness, right? And then there's all these molecules that wrap around it and allow the consciousness to kind of move around all the other molecules. And because of the barriers on the objects, or whatever, you know, you want to call this a body, like, everything has like an outlining, so you can say, really, if you were to look at it on a small scale, it's a big cosmic soup with a bunch of little molecules just moving around, and it doesn't look anything like this. But when you zoom out and you look at it from our perspective, it's like we see it. It's weird. It's like infinity, or some figured out consciousness, space. Maybe consciousness is pure space, and it figured out a way how to take space or consciousness and like bounce it off of like another reflective material and turn into a feedback loop and infinitely spiral somewhere, and you like take in the information, and then I'm able to sit here and be like, hey, what's up, bro?
Yeah.
We're like I don't know how to, I don't know if you can figure it out, but just, you know what I'm talking about? Like, just,
again, this is like, we're going to like very abstract kind of concepts for most people.
Yeah.
People who come to these things are people who are into meditation, people who are maybe like in ayahuasca experience or on shrooms or something like this, where they expand the constructs of their mind. They because in let's say our regular day-to-day life, it's like, you know, I'm Nicholas, and I work on the computer, and I've got a wife, and I've got a job.
You kind of have to do things a certain way in society.
It's just practical, right?
Depending on like the people around, you know. But like, I imagine if there was a more sophisticated place out there, like let's say someone came down and like, hey, Nicholas, so we're gonna go off to Pandora, okay? We'll come back. We'll come back in like a week. All right. You want to come with us? Yeah. Okay. You go there, you get to the city, and you're like, wow, you guys don't have money. You guys are doing all this stuff, and you have this technology. Like, you'd feel like you fit right in. Like, oh, come on, man. You come fit right in. And then you come back, you'd be like, what? Looking around like, what is this place? Like, come on, guys. Like, you get your shit together already? Come on.
This is called the material atmosphere here. So here you talked about this reflective idea. So
yeah,
you know, right. So this body is essentially made up of light packets, right?
Yeah,
and I can see you through this spectrum because we are vibrating at a similar frequency, so therefore I can see you.
Yeah.
But we know that the light spectrum, I think scientists have said, 0.3. We see physically 0.3% of the light spectrum. So we're talking about this window into life.
Yeah.
We are seeing not even 1%
just a little speckle
of the light spectrum available in the universe. Yeah. So right now, in this particular time and space,
this is just a sliver of consciousness.
Yeah. This is just it's so tiny. It's so tiny compared to the massive availability.
The one mind,
right? Yeah, the one mind, which is referred to by many names: God, universe, like so many names. But the idea is that we have this life. So I've spent a lot of time in this type of contemplation, right, and such.
This is my favorite place to be. I'm glad that we're here right now.
Yeah. This is you know, and I've recognized in my own life, my own experience of this is that okay, I've spent a ton of time in this type of contemplation and meditation and experiencing consciousness in different levels in different ways. And then I recognize that there is like what I'll just call the practical side of life, right? Which is like, okay, but what am I going to do in this world? What am I going to do here in this world? How am I going to contribute? And I have this little sliver of time that I call life.
Yeah.
I have this little sliver of spectrum, but I've been given this opportunity. To me, it's precious. It's rare.
Oh yeah.
It's in the entire infinite universe.
Well, you know it's not rare. It's just you have to treat it that way, you know, because this is your baby while you're here.
Yeah, well, it's your life, right? It's
Yeah.
it's what you've got right now. So what are you gonna do, right? Like,
Exactly.
you know, and so for me, I'm like, well, how can I find joy? How can I make a life? And for me, I'm in the space of what am I made of? What can I do?
Most joy is going to come from giving other people joy. Right?
100%.
Unless you're a sick fuck and you're like, I want all for me. Give me the big mansion. Give me the cars. Fuck you. Right?
Yeah, and I would argue that there's a difference between joy and pleasure.
I guess so, yeah.
and there's
Well, those bastards get both of that. That's what's really sick. But
yeah. I say there's a difference between joy and pleasure, and what we've done is we've mistaken the two.
yeah.
Right? We've mistaken pleasure to be joy or fulfillment. But anybody knows you continuously, there's not enough alcohol that you can drink.
Well, if you're getting
Before you pass out, first of all, but it doesn't matter. Like you might, like let's say you go out for the night, you have a few drinks, you're like, yeah, I'm having a good time, I'm dancing with my friends, whatever. So you drink more. Why? Because you're trying to get more joy. Mm-hmm. But is there more joy? No, because there's a certain spectrum that when you hit, all of a sudden you're throwing up in the thing. Right now you're throwing up. You feel like crap the next day. So what you were really going for is you were going for joy, but what you got was pleasure, and you mistake the two.
Yeah.
And we do it all the time. The idea of discovering consciousness or trying to open up to new levels of awareness is that we have to wean ourselves off the pleasure train and get into what is eternally fulfilling.
Well, a lot of that pleasure comes from materialism, or
100%.
I'm going to make up a word: materialisticism.
Materialisticism? Sure, why not?
It works, right?
Why not? I think people are making up genders. Why can't we make up words?
So this word, I use this word basically. It's somebody who's materialistic. It's an ism. It's like a disease. It's a sickness. It's materialisticism.
Yeah. Word. Yeah. Materialisticism.
I'm not with that at all, though.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's. I mean, for me, I'm gonna say that I'm not anti-materialism.
well, dude, there's
I'm
this.
not, because it's just life. It's just life. It's just different spectrums or different vibrations. So, for example,
Sorry.
like let's say, okay, you eat an apple.
Mm-hmm.
There is the material part of that apple, which is the atoms, which is what you taste, what
You
your taste
become
buds.
the apple.
But then there's an energetic part of that apple.
Well, this okay.
Right?
Sorry, I was trying to explain like I was talking about like the internal you and the external you. If you think about it, this is the for now you, but really there's an apple somewhere out there right now you're not even thinking about that you're gonna eat like a week from now. It's gonna be in your fridge that is growing off somewhere else. You're not even thinking about it, but you're interconnected with this energy of things moving around, and you're gonna come by, and it's all like. You could say it's pre-planned for you, or the availability is there for you, and you take the opportunity. Because you could look at it like it's pre-planned for you, like that apple's on its way, and then, oh, that took a big journey just to come to me, right? But or you could be like, okay, there's all this opportunity of all these things happening, moving around, and you're like, it's you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything's you. Anything that you can eat, that you can become, is you. All the people around you is basically you. It's like we experience individuality infinitely forever.
I would describe it as we are part and parcel of the individual whole.
Yeah.
Right? So
Like the
me
cell,
and the
like
apple.
how we're
right.
made, yeah.
Just the perfect example is your cell. Like the cells in my body are individual cells, but they're also part of my body.
Well,
so
even-
they're simultaneously individuals, but they're
It's like-
interconnected
it's like-
with a bigger picture.
Entanglement. What's that called? Like particle entanglement. It's like you could have two particular types of atoms or whatever. No matter the distance, move one and it moves the other. Like they're. So it's kind of like that with everything. Everything's interconnected, and on that small scale, you think like, how do these little engines work? Well, there's no like gravity affecting them, right? So once these things they move forever. Like they're full of energy. They just move and spin. And you got DNA. DNA just spins like a loop. It's able to take things from one end. And when a spring coil moves, it moves one thing from one end to another, and it all just kind of coalesces or conglomerates together. And
we're making up more words here.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It all just makes this wonderful thing. And then it's crazy how like an individual cell has so much work, like has like a busy schedule all day long.
Yeah, it's got a full day planned. Yeah, it's got a full agenda.
And how that one thing does so much by itself. It's crazy to look at what a cell can do. Like it's like a little nano computer. It's like a little super genius, but yet it all works because of the whole thing. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, I look at myself as an individual in the mirror. It's like, man, everything is so interconnected, and so much of everything is just everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's why, why I find these discussions beneficial, even though
people are just lost and they haven't found what we're talking about yet. If everybody has, we'd be like, hey, what's up, brother? All right, let's make this place awesome.
Well, yeah, there would just be an understanding that we're interconnected. Yeah. So there's no point of fighting, and there's no point of doing these things, and there's no point of trying to control each other either.
Well, let's start colonize other planets. Come on, guys, let's go. We don't want to go almost extinct again. Come on. Let's go. Hey, what's up, brother? How you doing? Yeah. No more. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a once you start expanding into this idea of universal consciousness, then there comes a universal love.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It comes or a universal acceptance.
Well, I'd rather like be like all happy and like hanging out with people, be like, hey, how you doing? Instead of this craziness all the time. Like, would you guys give it up already?
Yeah. But how do you know that that's not part of it? How do you know that's not part of the interconnectedness of it? That maybe war, maybe fighting is right. Is all actually part of it too.
I think to keep it healthy, as time goes on, like these kids who are like, I want you to call me they. Well, they don't know what it's like to be terribly treated in certain situations, to know how precious it is to lose your freedom of speech, because they've been like silver spooned their whole life, compared to like I was trying to say, like the older generation that watch all this stuff unfold. They understand it, but they don't, because they didn't like see it.
Yeah.
But what you gotta try to show these people, to broaden the perspective on what has happened and look at everything and go, okay, like it's always just now, right? And you just gotta like just do the best now. But like people are like stuck on these weird. It's like a big caterpillar. It doesn't know what the hell it's doing. Well, we got to be like a smart caterpillar before we morph our butterfly, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that we have. Look, again, we're basically coming into an era or an age in which we've advanced in certain ways with technology.
Like we got the technology figured out. Let's get the mind up to date.
That's right. But we haven't necessarily advanced the mind. So we're all more powerful individually, in the sense of like, let's, for example, social media, or even this podcast.
We need to do it not the way that Elon Musk is doing it. That's great that you can do that, but that's a very physical, mechanical way of doing it. You need the spiritual aspect. You can't just mechanically. It's like, if you're going to start tinkering with that, I think you're at that little tiny sliver scope of possibilities to what. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's going to work. Like the whole, like putting the little chip in your brain, and it's like, that might work for someone who's like paralyzed or something, but consciousness wise, you got to do that all on your own.
Consciousness will always be more advanced than everything else,
because it's
consciousness is the thing, right? Yeah.
You're not going to try to do this weird thing like
you're never going to catch up with consciousness, because consciousness is the source of everything else. And so this is the
mother lode, dude.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's the big distinction between what I'll call like spiritualists and atheistic kind of ways of living. It's like, so do you believe, like, when we go to Marxist type philosophy, so Klaus Schwab and these guys, they fundamentally believe that consciousness is a result of matter. But me and you, we fundamentally see the world as consciousness, and matter is a result of consciousness.
Well, I'll tell you that I don't actually believe. I just see.
Right.
I just observe. Right. It makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah. This is quite a conversation. Yeah. Quite different than the last one. Last one was much more political.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy these conversations. I think they're needed. And I think that it's okay to have conversations without needing a conclusion or a definite answer. And I think that it's a struggle for a lot of people because, again, our school system doesn't really allow for abstract conversations. You always need an answer. What is the answer? Right? What is the answer? Well, maybe there is no answer, or maybe we're in the process of discovering answers.
I think we're making the answer.
Or we're creating the answers as we go.
But then
these
again,
things can be explored.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's to approach a conversation like this, you have to first understand that you're approaching an exploration and you're not trying to conclude anything.
Yeah.
You're simply trying to expand and almost challenge what your mental constructs are and see if you can expand those constructs and break those down as best as you can, because we're all, in my opinion, blinded by our own self. I'm trapped by my personality.
Yeah.
I'm trapped by my current state of seeing the world. But the best thing that I can do is try to be as open-minded as I can.
Oh, for sure.
And go and first admit I don't have all the answers.
People will trust you being like that. They will literally trust you, and they'll be like, okay, I'm gonna be with this person. But then when you have these people, I'm just gonna use them as an example, like politicians, right? They don't have that self-admittance, or that, they have like this phony baloney about them.
I'm trying to change that.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's a different type of politician. I've said this in some of my speeches that
it needs to. If it doesn't, we're going to go to a very unhealthy place.
Well, we're going to continue doing the same mistakes. We're going to continue.
You
to
see the
do
barricades
the same
in Ottawa where they got like 2 layers of fencing in a city. You know what that reminds me of? One of those video games.
Right.
Where like a virus breaks out and then like everything's segregated and everybody's like every man for himself. And there's only so much food left, and it's only like government facilities that are actually cropping out food, and everybody's like on the scrounge on the outskirts.
That's the Great
and
Reset. That's what Klaus Schwab is, essentially. But he's painting it as a beautiful picture where you're going to own nothing and be happy, and everybody's going to share your living room, and you're going to love it. And I'm like, no, I don't think that's going to go down, because as much as we are interdependent, we're also independent.
Yeah.
And there's a balance. Again, it goes back to the yin yang, male, female, positive, negative. Unless we learn to live in harmony with duality, we will always find life is tough.
That's why I think if we're going to evolve our society and our species, we need to take, right now we're using technology in a way against nature. We need to merge them together like a beautiful thing and allow them to coalesce together, or just beautifully merge and kind of synchronously move together.
Well, and I would also say this comes down to a fundamental question, which is, what is the purpose of life?
Well, I can tell you, to live, motherfucker, to live, just live, right? People who get stuck on it and they're like, well, what's the purpose? We're just a mistake. It's like, okay, well, you can look at it like that, but look, man, don't be so ungrateful, Like, because you know how people think like that. They're like, oh, what's the purpose of life? Like, okay, blah, blah, blah.
Well, that's where materialism is born. Why we drown
exactly.
ourselves in alcohol is because we don't realize that there's a purpose actually to life.
But it's like,
I would say that the purpose to life is to expand. You say
to
live
and experience.
And experience and to
then
expand
play.
ourselves.
To play with whatever matter is here or whatever. It's like our big playground, and this is our putty or whatever we got to play
I
with.
think that people are ultimately trying to find purpose in life in the material side of life. My purpose of life is to be
and
a
they're
singer.
lost because there's no satisfaction.
There's
no it's it has to be spirituality and physicality together. So they're taking one side of the spectrum. You have to have the two. So it's like we're right now it's kind of like we're hitting that point where we're like and we gotta bind them together as a society, or it's all gonna crumble and fall apart.
Yeah.
We're kind of like on the verge of figuring something out or doing something differently, right?
Well, and I think too,
you can feel it.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people, like, against the last few years have been tough for a lot of people, but I'm very optimistic because in my own life, I know that every time I go through a tough period in my life, there's always a bigger breakthrough waiting for me at the end. So I know that transformation, like the caterpillar that turns into the butterfly, has to go through the dark time to be in the cocoon.
It has to do this weird chemical breakdown
because it has to break down, right? Because and again, we can get
very
to some
acidic,
topics.
and it breaks,
right.
and it's like
we have to break through. You have to first have a breakdown.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing now is breakdown in different constructs and systems and ideas. Now, who we're going to break through to be, I think that as individuals, we all make that choice. We're either going to break through and become a more awakened being, beings, which our consciousness will expand, our lives will expand, and all of our life experiences will expand.
Well, if you don't do what you're doing, that could stop all these other things from unfolding. So because of what you're doing is going to make other things unfold. It's going to help the way. And we're trying to get to the right way. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
So, and I think that the other, so you have, as an individual, we always have some free will and choice or discernment. Like, am I going to go left or am I going to go right? So I think right now we're in a time in our history where there's been a breakdown, and there's a breakdown happening. And what the breakthrough is going to be, and each individual is going to be like, and this is really going to largely depend on how you choose to view or your perception,
your infinity
going back
window.
to what, your window of life. Are you seeing this as an opportunity to establish? Like, for example, a lot of people have sat back over the last 2 years and played victim.
Okay, look,
you started a podcast.
Here's your infinity window. You can be like, let's say we're at PS5s right now. You can go down and view it through an old monitor screen at PlayStation 1 and just kind of, you got to upgrade, dude.
That's right.
Make sure you're looking through a good screen.
and to me, it's the choice is faith or fear.
You're like, what you were saying, like a lot of people didn't do anything this time, and then you're like, I started a podcast, like,
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, so right now there's lots going on. If you're in a mode of what I'll just call faith, and I'm not talking about faith from a religious perspective, but you believe that you can do something.
Yeah.
Then now is one of the greatest times for opportunity, because when there is breakdown, there's opportunity, there's space to be created for opportunity.
Yeah.
So the breakthrough for many people this time is going to create massive amounts of opportunity and momentum for a lot of people, and a lot of riches will be made, a lot of new types of medias showing up. You see all these new things are showing up, so they're breaking through.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if your perspective as an individual, if you're looking through the fear window and you think, oh, everything's breaking down and I'm just this little thing and I have no control and no power and oh my gosh, what's the government's going to do and you think that way, then ultimately your breakthrough is going to be bad. You're going to come out on the other side and you're going to be on the PlayStation 1 because you haven't used the opportunity. You haven't used the moment or seized the opportunity in the moment.
Yeah.
And that comes down to your window. How are you perceiving life? And that's why ultimately it comes down to your life. And when I say your, meaning every individual person, your life is largely made up, and the results that you experience in life is going to be largely made up by your perceptions, and your perceptions are largely made up by your thoughts, which are your belief systems. You install consciously. If you recognize I can install belief systems like Neo in the Matrix, I can take out beliefs and I can install beliefs.
People get so hardwired to them, they don't see any other upgrades available.
Yeah, that's right. And so, it all comes down to your individual choices. You make good choices in the sense for your life, and you develop your consciousness. You unplug yourself from the same old conversations and materialism and all this stuff, and you wake up to the fact that you're alive.
Yeah.
And it's precious.
Oh, yeah.
And oh my goodness, not 1 second should be wasted. You're going to have an awesome life, regardless of what any politician or policy comes.
Yeah.
You will make life awesome because you've developed a certain way of being that's expansive.
Yeah, it's like
you cannot stop you from being awesome.
Yeah, exactly. You're here this one time. How dare you be like, man, I fucking hate you. I mean, we've all been there, but like to just
we've all been there,
stay like bah humbug all the time. Like, come on.
It's just a waste of your life.
Yeah,
you're wasting your time. And that's the big thing. Once you wake up to, I'm alive and I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. I'm not even guaranteed an hour from now.
Because of that asteroid, right?
That's right, because we might just fly through the astral belt, right? Yeah. So, anyways, bro, I do got to get, get rolling here.
All right, we'll end it at that.
Cool.
All right,
awesome.